Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, came out 23 years ago. I still remember seeing it in theaters, and I was very, very young. My brother actually took me. It's the first movie that I remember seeing in theaters. I'm sure it probably wasn't the first movie I saw in theaters, but it is the first movie that I remember seeing in theaters. Of course, it was the smaller, less expensive theater, the dollar theater back then. It's probably how much it cost for a ticket. I remember sitting there. I was so excited. It's just my brother and I, and he'd grown up with the original Star Wars movies, and here I am now growing up with the prequels. And we're sitting there, and I remember thinking, wow, look, they have these red kind of spotlights or red side lights shining on the theater, and I'm like, wow, that's so cool. They did this just for Darth Maul. Of course, I'd seen the trailers. I knew who Darth Maul was. Of course, later, coming back to that theater, I realized they just had red lights up all the time. But, as a kid, I thought, wow, that's so cool. What's funny is I don't really remember a lot about my experience in the theater. And that's probably because, obviously I got sucked into the movie. But I do remember coming home, my brother and I coming home to my parents, and I just couldn't stop talking about it. I was just that little kid who just telling you everything about the movie, and just like, oh, the lightsaber battle. I think that's mostly what I was talking about. He had two lightsabers, and they were fighting, and then there's a big hole, and he almost fell down, and I'm sure I just went on and on and on about this amazing movie. Oh yeah, and he flew a ship and blew it up from the inside, and R2-D2 was there, and as well, lightsabers, So I think a year or two later, I dressed up as Darth Maul for Halloween. I had a toy double-bladed lightsaber. I think it was like the second toy lightsaber I ever had, but this one, unlike the first one, actually you could put batteries in and it would light up. What's funny about that lightsaber is I think I ended up breaking it in half accidentally, and all the dueling and stuff, it ended up breaking in half. But hey, that just means it was that much more realistic of a toy, I remember, you would collapse the little red blades down inside, and then there would be these little switches that would kind of go over the hole in the saber so they wouldn't just fall out. Of course, those switches, I think, sometimes got loose and it would come out anyways. But I loved Darth Maul, and so for Halloween, my mom, I think, printed off a picture of him and did all the lines, just like did the face makeup. It was actually pretty good. I mean, other than the fact that, I kept, I was a first grader with my hair, like had all the hair on top of my head. But, you didn't really notice that once I put the hood on, I suppose. But, it was pretty impressive costume for a first grader, I have to say. But, no, loved it. Good memory. I remember years later, in fact, probably 10 or 11 years later, they re-released, the plan for Lucasfilm was to re-release every Star Wars film, starting with Episode 1 and, going kind of timeline chronological order rather than the order the movies were made. So it'd start with The Phantom Menace and go all the way up to Return of the Jedi, and they were going to release each film in 3D each year. And I was actually really excited because, a lot of my family grew up with the original Star Wars, and I got to see those movies in theater. And I thought, wow, I'm gonna get to see A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi in theaters, because of when I was born, I didn't have any control over that. I never got to see the films in theaters. So I was really excited, and I remember my best friend, he was a big Star Wars fan too. He and I, we got tickets for the midnight premiere of The Phantom Menace in 3D, and this was, and we just were being kind of funny about it. Because, we could have easily gone the next day, but, we hadn't really been to a midnight premiere. I had the opportunity to go see Episode 3 in theaters, the midnight premiere, but I ended up not going until later the next day. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in my Revenge of the Sith video. But needless to say, this was the first time we were going to see a midnight premiere of Star Wars. And it was kind of fun. We grabbed some friends, some people who were also fans and who had seen it, but also I remember we had several girls there who had never seen a Star Wars movie before. We were going to show them episode 1, and then later we would watch 2 and all the other movies. And a few of us, just to be fun, we dressed up. My best friend dressed up as Luke from episode 4, and his girlfriend was Leia from Empire Strikes Back, when she's like on Hoth. And then I was Han Solo, which kind of felt a little weird that my best friend's girlfriend was Leia and I was Han. But, we just all kind of looked more looked the part better. He had the big smile, kind of like Luke Skywalker and all. And we waited outside. We waited in line. I think there might have been a couple other people dressed up, but it was so funny because there were probably like 10 people total in line, and half of them were from our little group. I don't know. It was fun. And it was so cool. I remember we saw on the marquee, it said Star Wars. And it just kind of gave us chills. Like, yeah, we'd seen episode 1. We knew episode 1. And I'm a big fan of the originals. And so it wasn't like the Star Wars, in the same way of we're going to see a brand new Star Wars movie opening night. It was the Phantom Menace, which had come out quite some time before, but now it was in 3D. And so we just had a lot of fun getting ready for that, and went and saw it. And it was kind of funny because I remember it was cool. It was cool to see it in 3D. Yeah, it definitely was. But really the only parts that really stood out were the pod race. The pod race was really cool in 3D. And then the lightsaber duel. And I think more than the 3D aspect of it, it was just that we were seeing the lightsaber duel with Duel of the Fates playing on a big screen, and not only that, but the audio was intense and loud. And, when Qui-Gon, meets his fate at the end, it was like, like I said, some of these girls hadn't seen this movie yet. And it was really intense to be there. And it was kind of like, ooh, this shocking moment. Like, what? It's always fun to experience something you experienced through the eyes of somebody else. Like it becomes fresh. So that part was fun. But other than that, it was the Phantom Menace. But I do remember walking out and being like, okay, the pod race was really cool, and so was the lightsaber duel, which, some of you, maybe that's what you're thinking anyways. That's the cool parts of that movie. But no, definitely worth seeing in theaters again. It was really fun. Of course, with Disney's acquisition of Lucasfilm, we didn't have the opportunity in the end to see the other films released in 3D. However, my friend and I did eventually, years later, we actually met up, and kind of a halfway between where we lived, we met up for Empire Strikes Back. Oh no, I might be getting that confused. We actually went to Rise of Skywalker and met halfway. He might have, I don't quite remember. No, yeah, he actually came down to where I live for Empire Strikes Back, but we did get to see that in theaters, and that was just, it was just fun. We finally got to see that on a big screen, and that's my favorite anyways. So I don't know, I loved it. It was a blast. Speaking of this friend, I remember about the time the 3D version of the Phantom Menace came out, we thought, okay, I think they were having a celebration down in Florida. And we thought, okay, what if we went to that? I don't think we were planning on dressing up or anything, but we thought, what if we drove all the way to Florida? And I say all the way because we lived on the western side of the United States. Yeah, so that would have been quite the drive. But, we're like, just the two of us. Just drive all the way down to Florida for celebration. We were just barely on the surface, just kind of talking about it. And my friend comes up to me one day and he says, so I haven't told my parents about this yet, since it was tentative anyways, but my mom just said to me the other day, she said, son, I can appreciate, your fandom and your love for Star Wars, and I can tolerate it, but just don't ever dress up and go to one of those conventions like that. That's kind of the crossing the line for me. And he and I looked at each other, and I thought, okay, maybe we won't go. And, it was kind of just a thing we were maybe talking about anyways. But it was really funny. And there really is nothing wrong with that. Obviously, I mean, look at me now. I'm dressed up and probably even a lot worse than I was back then as far as my fandom goes. But it was funny. I brought that up at his wedding. I think that was the first his mom had ever heard of our plans to go to Star Wars celebration. And don't get me wrong, I would, who knows, maybe I'll be at the next one. I don't know. I think it's a great thing. It's a fun thing. It's especially to see people dressed up in costumes and just, meet some really cool people. I think, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But for our mother's sake, we had to dial it back a little bit back then. So, but it's been cool over time to see Darth Maul, for instance, brought back in the Clone Wars and Solo, and I'm anxious to see, hopefully we'll get to see more of that character in some capacity. I guess I shouldn't leave out Rebels. He was in Rebels too, but it's cool to see the impact that one character from one film has made all these years later. One more quick story. I remember one Christmas, I had, at this point, I had the Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber. I think it was Hasbro FX lightsaber with the removable blade. I had to have that one. I think it cost like $30 more. I had to have the removable blade. Anyways, I remember asking for Christmas, like the only thing I wanted was Darth Vader's, because I wanted to be able to, I think we had my friend and I had some video ideas, and it incorporated having a blue lightsaber and a red lightsaber that lit up. And what happened is we actually were for like a class thing, we were at someone's house, and they, this was a pretty wealthy person. They had a really like big house, really nice house. And I just remember, we're downstairs, and up on his mantle, like above the fireplace, he had the hilt of Darth Vader's lightsaber. And it was like the same setup as the Obi-Wan lightsaber that I had, but it was Darth Vader. And I can't remember if he had the blade in it or not, if that was being displayed. But I just remember thinking, wow, that's cool. Like, this guy's, there's like nothing in this house that would make you think this guy's a Star Wars fan, except he's got Darth Vader's lightsaber up on the mantle. I'd be like, that's kind of cool. But I think we're like, oh, maybe he'll let us use the lightsaber. And then we started thinking about it, and like, okay, he probably not. I think we ended up asking his son, like, well, I'll see. And anyways, long story short, I remember getting a long box under the Christmas tree. I started to rip it open. I saw the red lightsaber blade. I'm like, yeah. And then I ripped it more, and it was Darth Maul's lightsaber. And I looked over at my mom, and I kind of laughed. I said, well, thank you so much. But now we're going to have to get another one of these so that we can complete the double-bladed lightsaber. And she's like, what? She's like, I thought that was Darth Vader's. I'm like, oh, no, this was actually Darth Maul's. And she's like, oh, shoot. Well, I just saw red, I mean, it's true, she just saw the red lightsaber, didn't know the difference. Of course, I knew right away as soon as I saw it, but when she ended up taking it back and switching it out for Darth Vader, they had it, and it's like back then, we could go to the movie rental store, and they had a collector's section, and they had the FX lightsabers, they had Mace Windu's, I think was the first one I saw there, and that was, I kind of wanted it, and I think I've wanted that one ever since, but I don't know, I've never did get it, but and what's funny is I look at other ones, it's like, okay, if I'm gonna get another lightsaber, it'll be this one or that one, but I still love Mace Windu's, it's cool. Anyways, getting sidetracked here. No, it was just cool back then where you could go. In fact, they had Kit Fistos there for a long time. I guess the Darth Maul portion of that story is what made me think of it. It's related to episode 1, but ended up getting Darth Vader's. So removable blade, of course. I can't even talk. Removable blade. Man, back then those lightsabers were only $100, $130, and I say only. That's still a good amount of money, but I say only because nowadays, they're just so expensive. It seems like $200-$300. Anyways, but they're cool. The Phantom Menace, 23 years ago. I'd be very interested to hear your experience, especially those who a little older and knew the hype surrounding the film. But even those who were like me, were little when they saw it in theaters, or who were too little to even see it in theaters and saw it later. Just what has the Phantom Menace meant to you, and what impact has it had on your life? Please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your fandom. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. I'll be making some more videos about my experiences with the Star Wars films, as well as a lot of other content on here about stormtroopers and just everything from the perspective of a stormtrooper. So please consider subscribing, and may the Force be with you.